The first thing that jumps out at me about Faxanadu is that it's yet another game that used a painted miniature for its box art. This is becoming a real trend in 1987. Now, before I get into the game too deeply, I have to talk about something else. In the 2 weeks between Hudson releasing Momotaro Densetsu and releasing Faxanadu, they also released a new console. The PC Engine is the first successful competitor to the Famicom, and for the next couple years, it's going to outsell the Famicom. It's also going to lure away a lot of the bigger efforts from game publishers. Hudson, obviously, but also Namco goes all in on the PC Engine. While they both still publish Famicom games, their real efforts are being pushed over there. Almost all of the major publishers for the Famicom wind up making something for the PC Engine. We're also going to start seeing dual releases for both systems. The Famicom's absolutely enormous install base allows it to keep going, despite how consoles that are technologically superior have started appearing. Fazanadu is a weird title. It's an abbreviation of Family Computer Xanadu. Xanadu being the subtitle of Nihon Falcom's Dragon Slayer 2. This is actually the conclusion of the Dragon Slayer trilogy on the Famicom. We had Dragon Slayer 4, then Dragon Slayer 3, and Dragon Slayer 2 is by far the best of them. It's also a bit unusual for these action-adventure games we've been seeing lately, since it had a US release. Nintendo themselves translated and published this one in the US. As far as I can tell, the only significant difference, other than the translation, is that Nintendo removed all the religious iconography. As for where they got the title Xanadu from, that's an excellent question since the game has nothing to do with stately pleasure domes or roller rinks. Rather than Chinese or Mongol, it seems to be leaning into Norse mythology. You start out at the roots of Yggdrasil and have to climb the world tree. In fact, the story of Faxanadu revolves around that. Yggdrasil got hit by a meteor, and that sent the elves and dwarves into conflict. You're just some guy who's been away from home for a long time, and at the start of the game you arrive at your hometown, which is at the roots of the tree. Faxanadu is a side-scrolling action-adventure game, and your first task is to explore the town. If you go to the right, there's a monster there which you cannot fight yet, and going to the left, you'll eventually reach the king. If you can prove that you are who you say you are, you'll get some money and be sent off on a quest to resolve everything. So in the first town, you buy yourself a dagger and the first spell. Items have to be equipped outside of the shop, and the interface for Faxanadu is all in English, so I don't think I need to explain it too much. Along with your starting equipment, you can buy a red potion and an elixir. The elixir will automatically refill your health when you die, while the red potion you actually have to use. And you do that by equipping it, and then pressing down and B when you want to use it. You can also buy some keys in town. A lot of the doors to advance in the game are locked in Faxanadu, and you'll have to buy the appropriate key to get through them. As you run around, you're going to quickly notice that there's some monsters that your sword just can't hurt. These have to be stopped by pressing up and B, which casts your equipped spell. Naturally, that costs magic points. In towns, you could eat some food to restore about a third of your health and magic, or you could go to a hospital which will refill all of your energy. For health at least, a lot of the smaller enemies drop food when they die, so you can get a little bit back that way. As you start to explore outside of town, you'll find this tower, and you have to climb it in order to get a matic. There's a boss at the very top, and he's the first enemy that you're going to find that throws fireballs. You can block fireballs if you have a shield, and that'll reduce the amount of damage you take, but it doesn't eliminate it, and it shoves you back pretty far. So enemies that throw spells at you are especially dangerous. In fact, it's so risky against this guy that I'd recommend just standing in one spot where he can't hit you, and then swinging repeatedly. The matic is used to break through certain walls, and once you use it once, it's gone forever. In Faxanadu, everything respawns. So if you absolutely have to get it, you can always backtrack some screens, go fight that boss again, get another Matic, and then return. There's experience in Faxanadu, but it doesn't mean a whole lot. You'll get a different title at certain levels, and the title will improve when you talk to the priest at the church. But all it really comes down to is you get to keep a little bit more gold when you get killed by enemies and respawn at the church. One more thing about the church is, if you aren't leveling up and talk to the priest, then you get the password. There isn't a battery save in this one. A neat feature in Faxanadu is that changing your equipment changes your character's appearance. For armor, that's cosmetic, but for weapons it makes a big difference. A longsword has a lot better reach than a dagger, and it deals more damage. So upgrading your weapons tends to be a pretty big improvement. I didn't make it especially far in Faxanadu. I was taking my time and making sure I got everything, but I have beaten it in the past. And I do think it's a pretty good game. I like it a lot more than the easy comparison here of Zelda 2. The action isn't perfect, but it's more fun to play, and having a ranged spell right from the start gives you more options. I do wish the bosses were better, and the jumping often requires some real precision, including running right off the edge of a ledge and then jumping. In Japan, the game is well liked, though people do complain that it's completely different from the original Xanadu, and that the RPG elements aren't a significant aspect of the game. Those differences between Xanadu and Faxanadu made Nihon Falcom pull the Ys license from Hudson. It's why the Ys games have a completely different developer on consoles. But personally, I don't think it really matters a whole lot. Faxanadu is a good game on its own. It's one of the best action-adventure games we've seen on the Famicom so far. And it's amazingly accessible. This is a friendly game to play, even if it is a challenge. This style of game is going to slip out of fashion on the Famicom pretty soon, but if they had all been this good, it would have been nice to keep them around.